had a passion for studying Daniel 11, especially verses 40 through 45. I really appreciate all the historical understandings in chapter 11 that you guys have already given that takes you up to verse 40. I appreciate that. I will also have to admit that in the last 14 years, I have made changes and modifications of my understanding of Daniel 11, 40 through 45. So I don't claim to know everything about this. I'm just learning. It's evolving, okay, in my understanding. Now, I will say I like Louis Weir. I appreciate Louis Weir. However, I don't agree with everything that Louis Weir says. I do believe that we do need to look at Daniel 11, 40 through 45 in a symbolic nature. Some take it literally, some take it symbolically. I do agree with Louis Weir that I think we ought to take it symbolically. And I'll give you an example why I've come to that. When you look at Daniel chapter 11, verse 41, it talks about the king of the north entering into the glorious land. Many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom, Moab, and Ammon. Well, if you're taking this literally, you have a real problem, because you cannot find an Ammonite, a Moabite, or an Edomite. You cannot find one, period. So you can find somebody from Egypt, Ethiopia, but not these. That's why I believe you should take this symbolically. Now, verse 40, I think, is the key. If you don't get verse 40, you're not going to get the rest of the verses. Verse 40, in my opinion, is the genesis of these 5 verses. It says, at the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind with chariots, horsemen, many ships, and he shall enter the countries, overwhelm them, and pass through. So we know from the book Great Controversy, Mrs. White is very clear that 1798 is the beginning of the time of the end. And if you lose that, you're going to lose the rest of the verses. We have been in the time of the end since 1798. That's a historical Adventist position. That's crystal clear. And something very significant was happening in 1798. Just recently I found this. This was written like 12 years ago by Nicholas Miller. He wrote an article, The King of the North, the King of the South, Religious Liberty, and the Sanctuary. And he says King of the South starts out with Egypt. Pharaoh says, I know not God. I don't believe in God. Who is your God? It morphs into the French Revolution, atheistic France, And then it goes from there to communism, spreads into communism. And then I like what this